Hi, I'm Ross Deuchar, so I'm Professor of Criminology and Criminal Justice at the University of the West of Scotland. And I'm conscious that this Thursday is International Men's Day. And it's a subject that I feel really passionate about. I've done a lot of work over the years on masculinity in my research. And I'm also hugely passionate about men's mental health and well-being, which I know is a key theme this year in International Men's Day. So I think one of the things we just need to remember as men is that masculinity is really quite broad. And so often I think a lot of guys still think of being a man in quite narrow terms. You know, I think particularly young men nowadays perhaps think that to be a man, to express their masculinity, they need to kind of display aggression, they need to be the tough guy, they need to prove themselves in front of other young men. Perhaps they're quite often influenced by all the imagery that's around us, you know, where there are all these kind of strong bodybuilding images. It's about physical strength, it's about aggression, it's being tough. You know, and actually, I think what we need to remember is that being a man is about much more than that. And it's about, you know, being a caring individual, being a family man, supporting other people, showing empathy, forming good relationships, being a good leader, being a great role model to other people. And if I was to look back, you know, standing here in 2020, and I was to give advice to my younger self, you know, growing up in the 1970s and 80s, I would probably say to him, you know, stop policing your masculinity, Ross, because I think I fell into that trap where I felt there were certain things I shouldn't say and shouldn't do in front of my mates because I might be seen as being kind of soft, you know, or, you know, not manly enough. And I think we can all fall into that trap. And I think, you know, what we need to remember is that just to relax and be ourselves and actually be able to express our masculinity in all sorts of different ways. When I was growing up, I think, you know, there was always this one image of what a man was, what a man looked like, how they should behave, what their role was. You know, the man was the breadwinner, the man was somebody perhaps that didn't open up and talk about their emotions. They were tough, they were strong, and so on. And they dressed in a particular way, they acted in a particular way, they had a particular type of job, you know. And I think I became quite influenced by that. And sometimes I had the perception that, oh, it's not manly if you open up about your feelings, but that was always my natural inclination to open up. And, you know, I'm naturally an emotional guy. And I kind of policed that and felt that that was wrong and felt insecure about that. Nowadays, I think things have totally changed because actually you can be a man in so many different types of ways now. You know, you don't have to have a particular job. We can have men in all sorts of jobs. Nowadays, you don't have to dress in a particular way. I think anything goes now in terms of fashion. Boys and men can talk about their feelings, they can express their emotionality, they can be soft if they want to be the tough guys sometimes, they can do that too. There's much more openness about sexuality now as well. People don't have to disguise or hide their sexuality, which is a great thing. And, you know, I think the message to young men is never feel that you have to police your own masculinity, you have to fit into a box and you have to behave in a certain way, look a certain way, talk a certain way, because actually anything goes, and just be yourself. One of the things I think, you know, that can help that process is having positive role models. You know, and I've had a lot of great role models in my life that have supported me, but I think sometimes it's difficult nowadays because, you know, probably prior to deindustrialisation, a lot of men, particularly maybe where I'm from in the west of Scotland, would have gone out to work in the shipyards, they would have gone into jobs in heavy industry, they would have been surrounded by other men that would have nurtured them and guided them in the right direction. But sometimes, you know, that just isn't there now. Those kind of jobs don't exist. And sometimes for very disadvantaged young men, living in communities where perhaps there aren't jobs available like that anymore, and maybe especially if maybe there isn't a father figure around at home either, it can be very difficult because they don't quite know, you know, where are their role models? Who should they be aspiring to? Sometimes it means that some of these young men feel a bit lost, I think, nowadays. But actually, they shouldn't be lost because there is always a community out there. Sometimes it might be online nowadays. But I've been really interested to see over the last few years the growth, for instance, in men's support groups. I think it's been a really positive thing in society. So in Scotland, where I'm from, for instance, we have groups like Men Matter Scotland, Mind the Men, Men and Boy Coalition. There's Man On Inverclyde, which is a great organisation that supports young men, and they often have a strong focus on men's mental health. And it's a place that men can go, and men and boys, and just talk openly with one another. And so there are communities out there, there are support structures available. And I think one of the things I'm really passionate about is mental health. So, you know, I've been in the place where I've had difficulties with my own mental health at various points, and particularly this year during lockdown, my mental health took a real dip. But I was able to reach out. First of all, I was able to get medical help, but I was also able to reach out to my mates and open up and talk about how I was feeling, my family as well, of course. And also there's support groups that I'm part of that have been a great source of strength and support for me, where I've met other people who are struggling with their mental health. We've been able to be quite open and talk about our struggles, and also share really good things that have worked for us, which has been tremendous. And I think we need to keep putting the message out there to men that it's okay not to feel okay sometimes. We know that 3/4 of the deaths by suicide in the UK are males, and you know, suicide is a real issue still in society. And you know, a recent survey by the Samaritans suggested that the men that were surveyed still said that they would avoid reaching out and talking to somebody or seeking support if they weren't feeling okay. Well, I think there's been a change there. I think most of the men that I know are actually great at opening up and talking about their feelings and emotions now. And these men's groups have really helped. One of the things that has helped me the most is meditation and power breathing exercises. And I remember when I first started to study all of this kind of stuff, it was in Denmark actually as part of my research, and I came back full of excitement about the impact that meditation can have and breathing. And there were quite a lot of cynical people in various audiences that I spoke to that time. That was about 5-6 years ago. In that time, I think there's been a real cultural shift, and there's been a real kind of embracing of some of these holistic practices. And there's a lot of men doing this now. Some of the groups that I run on mindfulness, it's mostly men, you know, that are coming to engage in this stuff. And I know a lot of guys that engage in things like power breathing and really see the benefit of that. And I think more and more men feeling much more comfortable about opening up to their feelings, emotions, and supporting each other. So I think there is a real cultural shift, but we need to keep putting that message out. Guys, there's important roles for you out there, leadership roles, family roles, work roles. There's role models there available to you. There's communities of support, and you should never feel that you're on your own, and you should never feel that it's not okay to admit that you're not feeling okay. So I hope that International Men's Day this year really puts that message out there and continues to encourage men to be all they can be, basically. So thanks very much for listening.